This week, you might find that some final plot twist is flipping the script on some storyline or circumstance in your life. And armed with this new perspective, you might be able to look back and see peppered throughout this story arc clues that it was always this way and you just weren't able to see it before. Hi, friends. It's Emily with Emily T. Astrology, and I am your host for this, my new show, Hermes Speaks. This is your weekly astro check-in where we will look at the quality of our current time. And because I am a lover of words, of books, of reading and writing, I will also be bringing in some added insights, some messages from Mercury Hermes offered through the divinatory practice of bibliomancy. This week, we are looking at the opposition of Mercury in Scorpio to Uranus in Taurus. Now, this is not a new opposition. Uranus has been in the sign of Taurus for the better part of the last 7+ years, and Mercury passes through Scorpio once a year. So for the last 7 years or so, every time Mercury has passed through Scorpio, it has formed an opposition to Uranus in Taurus. In fact, the very first time that this opposition took place across this axis was in October 10th of 2018, both at 1 degree. Mercury at 1 degree of Scorpio and Uranus at 1 degree of Taurus. This year in particular, we have had 3 oppositions of Mercury to Uranus. And that's because Mercury just completed a retrograde cycle. Interestingly, though, the very first opposition during this year between Mercury and Uranus took place at 0 degrees. Mercury in Sagittarius opposed Uranus at 0 degrees of Gemini. So this is a new flavor, that initial opposition that took place, and that was on October 29th, 2025. Then Mercury stopped, stationed retrograde, started to move backward from our perspective here on Earth, and it opposed Uranus again on November 19th, 2025. This time, Mercury at 29 degrees of Scorpio opposed Uranus at 29 degrees of Taurus. And now we're coming up to our last opposition, the final opposition of Mercury in Scorpio opposing Uranus in Taurus, and that's taking place today, the 10th of December, 2025 at 28 degrees of their respective signs. So what does this mean? Mercury is our planet of the mind, of communication, of thought, and awareness. Uranus is a planet of disruption, change, freedom, the unexpected, revolution, and rebellion. When these 2 planets come together in an opposition, we might be experiencing revolution of thought, sudden insight, new awareness that is potentially destabilizing or shakes us up. And when Mercury is in Scorpio in particular, there is a depth, a quality of penetrative ability. There is almost like a detective ability to plumb into the depths, to get to the very heart, to see through the bullshit of a situation. So we might have been having a series of revelatory new insights, new information that comes seemingly from out of nowhere for the last several years whenever Mercury opposes Uranus from Scorpio to Taurus. And this one in particular, as the very final opposition between these 2 planets across this sign axis, is really making me feel like it is the final plot twist, as I said at the top of the episode. I keep thinking of the film The Usual Suspects. I hope I'm not spoiling anything. This movie came out in 1995. But at the very end of that movie, the Kevin Spacey character, the character played by Kevin Spacey, it is revealed that he was the mastermind behind the Kaiser Soze myth, this kind of devil character, the whole time. And when we have that revelation, that final plot twist at the end of that film, you can kind of look back and sift back through your memories of having watched it, and you can see all these clues that, yeah, he was it the whole time, but it took that shift in perspective. It took that final revelation of information for you to be able to see clearly. And that's what this opposition feels like to me. Like we are receiving some kind of final revelation, not on a brand new storyline, but a long held, an old storyline or circumstance in our life that we have been slowly coming to terms with, slowly having shakeups, slowly having shifts, slowly bringing in new more freedom or rebellion or revolution. But this is the final piece of information that allows us to shift the trajectory of the story because of a change in perspective. The external circumstances might not have shifted at all, but something in our psychology and our awareness around it has shifted. So, I'm going to give you some horoscopes today for all of your signs, including a bibliomancy poll that helped me to craft some reflection questions for all of you. But before we get to your horoscopes for your individual signs, I wanted to also pull from a book just as an overall feeling to this transit of Mercury in Scorpio opposing Uranus and Taurus for the final time. And if you're not familiar with bibliomancy, it is a divinatory practice very similar to approaching the I Ching or consulting the Tarot. And how it works is you take a book, any book, and you contemplate a concept, you ask a question, or you meditate on, in this case, a transit, so Mercury opposite Uranus, and then you open the book at random to see what message there might be for that transit or that concept that you are contemplating. And, I have to get my reading glasses on because I'm over 40, right? Okay, so the book that I decided to pull from, and admittedly, I have never read this book. It was included in a stack of books that a friend gave me several years ago and has been sitting on my shelf. But something about the title really stood out to me this week. It is called Priest Daddy by Patricia Lockwood. And I meditated on the transit of Mercury opposite Uranus, and I opened the book, and this is what I read. While we were growing up, there was another painting in our house, Fra Angelico's Annunciation. It was one of those paintings that seemed to continue outside their own borders and reach into real life. This, I thought, is what good art must mean. Two hands stretched out of the sun and shot a streaming gilt tassel into Mary, who bent over the place where she was struck. The angel, with feathers like a fractal quail, delivered his message directly into her eyes. Mary's face was an unripe peach, not ready, not ready. A little book slid off her right thigh like a pat of butter. Stars in the ceiling pierced down. When I left home, I hardly ever saw pictures of the Annunciation anymore. I was not expecting this somehow. I thought I would still encounter the messenger angel everywhere. It was the messenger angel who captured my attention, and not the angel with the flaming sword, and not the dark-hooded angel of death. By instinct, I understood that the most interesting one is the information angel, who carries the newspaper that is meant for you over your doorstep and into your life. I mean, right? It's like bibliomancy, divination works, right? Maybe. Um, so what do we take from this? I mean, you can see in the picture here of this painting of the Annunciation. Well, first of all, let's talk about Annunciation. It means announcement, essentially, right? Generally in reference to the announcement that Mary receives that she is going to become the mother of Jesus. And you can see in the picture that she literally, and it's described by the narrator of the book, that she literally has to kind of cave in at the solar plexus at the receipt of this announcement. It's overwhelming to receive the revelation of this announcement. She is being given a sacred task. And in this story, as many of us will know, Mary is an unwed teenage mother. This task that she is being given, that she has been chosen for, this piece of information that the messenger angel brings to her, the newspaper across the doorstep of her life, meant for her, is that she will have to undergo this sacred task despite the fact that she will most likely receive condemnation, she will be ostracized, she will be left to the outskirts of town and a barn in order to bear her child, right? Not accepted, not taken in. This was not something that was done, having having a child out of wedlock, right? And so this image, you can see her response to it, the kind of cowering within the solar plexus. And this piece of bibliomancy, this pull from this book, in how it relates to the Mercury-Uranus opposition, feels to me like we are being given the final piece of information that is changing the trajectory of our life. And, this sounds a bit sensational, right? Our lives are not biblical, right? We don't have, most of us, these moments of the angel coming to us to tell us that we're going to be the mother of God, right? But there is something, if we look at it as an allegory, as a metaphor, about the ability of a shift in perspective because of a new piece of information, because of a revelation that allows our whole lives to feel different. Again, even if the circumstances themselves are not really changing. It's the awareness, the shift of perception that allows our trajectories to change. And so I think the message that's coming through for all of us, before we get into your horoscopes, for all of us with this final opposition between Mercury and Uranus, is that if we allow ourselves to be open to perhaps unexpected or shocking plot twists that reveal a new perspective, if we allow ourselves to be open to that and we choose to trust in the process, Mary had to do a lot of trusting here, right? She had to have faith that this was meant for her, right? So if we choose to trust in the process, if we choose to have faith, despite the fact that we might be feeling like we're being tossed into the unknown or we're being asked or tasked to approach something that might make us unpopular, right? Or we might receive condemnation for. But if we trust that maybe, just maybe, something miraculous, something of redemption, right? If we know the story of Mary is on the other side, is potentially on the other side. And that sounds grandiose, right? And I don't mean to sensationalize. But a shift in perspective truly can change everything. And so just keep that in mind, that idea of that perhaps we'll be receiving some announcement, some new piece of information. And maybe it's a long held story that we're able to look at with fresh eyes now, right? But keep this in mind as we move into your horoscopes today. I will be giving you horoscopes for all 12 signs with a pull from Priest Daddy. For each of you, you can see all of my little tags there. And some reflection questions or some journaling prompts, up to you how you like to work with your astrological reflection. These horoscopes are in whole sign houses, as I am a Hellenistic astrologer, and I do recommend listening for your rising sign. It will be most closely correlated with your actual birth chart, the way it's laid out, but you can certainly listen for your sun sign as well. That's perfectly fine. And these will be fairly brief horoscopes that just go over the areas of life and the house topics where this transit is taking place in your chart. And then we will go into the reflection questions that were informed by my pulls from Priest Daddy. For Aries, this opposition is taking place across your second and eighth houses. Your eighth house of Scorpio is where we find Mercury opposing Uranus in Taurus, your second house. This is the axis of resources. The second house often speaks to our possessions, our income, our personal resources, and that, of course, can include energy, time. It does not have to be material resources at all, but anything that resources you as an individual. This is where Uranus has been for the better part of the last 7+ years. And Mercury in your eighth house of Scorpio, this is the house of shared resources, of the ways that we are enmeshed and entangled with other people, the ways that we owe others and what they owe us. This is where we find the esteem or expectations of others placed upon us. And it's just the ways that we are entangled with other people. And so you might be receiving some revelations, some new information, the final plot twist about the ways that you are connected with and in debt to or indebted by others. This could also be a piece of information or a revelation that is coming up around a partner's resources. For those of you who are partnered, this is where we find the eighth house is where we find our partner's resources. And it might be coming up through something unexpected that's taking place in your personal finances. Maybe you're having a windfall come in through an inheritance, something like that. But something is shaking up your access of resources here. And it's not a news story. This might be an inheritance that's finally coming in after it's gone through the court system and all of that. That's, this is not brand new, but it's shifting the perspective that you are able to have based on this new information. Anything to do with personal and shared resources here. For Aries, the pull from, again, Priest Daddy that I pulled reads as follows. My family has the most intact dogs on the planet. Do not even think one of our dogs does not have its balls or is not capable of shooting out puppies at a moment's notice. This is kind of fun, right? Well, in pondering resources, the ways that you are enmeshed with others, your own personal resources, I have devised some questions based on this poll about our intact dogs. And these are just for your reflection, your journaling, if you'd like. And I have 3 questions for you. The first, is your ability to be productive a source of pride for you? Have you been overly attached or overly valued by others for your productivity or creative output? What is being revealed to you about others' expectations of your metaphorical virility or fertility? All right, Aries, so just ponder that. What do those questions make you think or feel? Now, if you are a Taurus, then this opposition between Mercury and Uranus is taking place across your first and seventh houses. Mercury is in your seventh house of Scorpio, opposing Uranus in your first house of Taurus. Now, the first house, where Uranus has been, again, for the better part of the last 7 years, is the place of the self, is the place of personality, character development, appearance, body, psychology. These are all first house topics. And the seventh house, where Mercury is in Scorpio, is the place of our primary one-on-one relationships. This is your romantic, partners or spouse. This is your close business partners. If you work in a one-on-one client situation, this can be your clients found in this place. So what's being revealed to you right now? Some new revelation about a partner might be coming up. You might be becoming aware of something to do with your partner, your spouse, a very close friend who you consider to be, a one-on-one primary relationship in your life. You might be having a final piece of information coming in for you that's a revelation that shifts your perspective, that shifts the perspective of how you feel about yourself or how you are developing as an individual, or what is changing, what has been kind of an ongoing slow process over the last 7 years around shifts, change, freedom, and revolution of yourself, of your own character development, right? And so for Taurus, the passage that I pulled from Pre-Study by Patricia Lockwood goes like this. My red-headed teacher taught us about the great composers. Here is what I remember. Bach was a scrolled mahogany computer wearing a little wig. Mozart just farted all the time. Beethoven was deaf and had thunder for hair. Wagner was a Nazi and he had hooves instead of feet. Stravinsky bore the mark of the beast on his forehead. Aaron Copland was cut up for steaks by the National Beef Council, and Tchaikovsky was a marzipan baby. John Cage had sex with a piano for 5 minutes in the middle of the stage at Carnegie Hall. And at the end, all of New York applauded. Now, I got to admit, Taurus, when I first read this, I was a little confounded. I'm not sure exactly what this is getting at, especially not having the context of the greater story because I haven't actually read the book. But upon reflection, I came up with these 3 questions for you to reflect upon or as journal prompts. Can you find beauty or freedom in accepting the crass, perverse, eccentric, or base aspects of yourself? Is it a revolutionary thought or idea that these uglier aspects of yourself might have helped to shape the beauty of your wholeness? What is being revealed to you about the potentially quirky or ugly aspects of yourself that a partner is secretly attracted to? Or conversely, what is being revealed to you about these qualities that you find attractive in someone else? So ponder that, Taurus. Let me know in the comments if this resonates with you. I'm really curious about that one in particular. If you are a Gemini, then this opposition is taking place across your 6th and 12th house axis. Mercury in Scorpio is in your 6th house and is opposing Uranus in Taurus in your 12th. Now, this is an axis of houses, which tends to be a little bit difficult, especially in the, ancient literature. The 6th house is a place of self-sacrifice, of toil, of effort, of challenges and accidents and illness. It's the challenges that arise through which we have to persevere in the pursuit of stability, in the pursuit of a greater purpose, ideally. The 12th house is where we find our subconscious, the ways that we undermine ourselves or are undermined by unseen actors. This is a place of isolation and also of retreat, solitude from the world. And so what revelation might be coming in around the ways that you have been sacrificing of yourself, right? This could be some revelation, something coming in, some new awareness around the efforts that you have been making, the ways that you have been giving of yourself, the ways that you have been challenged to rise up and persevere through something. And Uranus in the 12th house might be this new awareness that's coming in around the ways that you have been giving of yourself, the ways that you have been working and putting in effort and persevering through something, is shifting and freeing up something in your subconscious. Some new awareness is coming up around maybe subconscious patterning that has long held you back, has been keeping you isolated. Some patterning is ready to be freed up, to have revelation, and to have new breakthroughs around maybe some subconscious patterning that has long held you back. And it's to do with revelations taking place around the ways that you have been giving of yourself, or that the ways that you have been working hard and self-sacrificing of yourself. And so for Gemini, your bibliomancy pull says this, in all caps and in quotations, "Wanna risk it?" the Virgin yelled, and I blushed for him. All right, Gemini, your 3 questions to reflect upon or journal prompts are these. What growth can be found through the loss of innocence? What freedom could be gained by taking the risk of exploring the deepest shadows of your subconscious? What is being revealed to you about the ways you have been holding yourself back out of the fear of taking risks? I hope that's helpful, Gemini. Come back, let me know what you think about that. For our Cancers out there, this is taking place across your 5th and 11th house axis. The 5th house of Scorpio is where we find Mercury opposing Uranus in your 11th house of Taurus. The 5th house is where we find our children, our creative expression, our pleasure, joy, play, and romance. The 11th house is where we find our groups, friends, social networks, and professional networks, communities, and our most deeply held dreams and wishes for the future. And so maybe some revelation is coming in around a child, if you happen to be a parent, or around what really brings you pleasure, what really brings you joy. You are receiving some new information, a new announcement from the angel. What brings you joy? What brings you pleasure about your sense of creativity and how you want to express yourself? And that might be coming through some shakeup or shift or change that's taking place in a community, a group, for a friend network or a professional network. What shift in your perspective can come through around changes in your communities, or changes for a friend, changes, shifts, freeing up, rebellion, revolution, disruption within your communities, that is allowing you to have a new perspective and a new awareness around what really brings you joy and pleasure and a sense of natural, organic creativity that exudes from you when you are living within your joy. And so for our Cancers, your bibliomancy pull is as follows. Dads didn't care about lightning because lightning was on the cover of all their favorite albums. Sometimes it was painted on their trucks as well. You could tell that if their kids were killed by lightning, they would be sad, but they would also feel superior about it for the rest of their lives, because it was without question the most hard-ass way for a child to die. Oh my goodness, right? So in thinking about that little snippet, that passage from Pre-Study, I have come up with these questions for you, Cancers. Where are you romanticizing martyrdom or suffering? Are you feeling a desire for freedom from your groups, friends, or communities through the burning of bridges? Or conversely, do you need to burn some things down to free yourself up from communities that are no longer supporting you? What is being revealed to you about the idea that your sense of creativity, your pleasure, your art has to come out of pain? It's a good one, Cancers. I know Cancers in particular can be so giving right? So giving of themselves and so nurturing to others. Are you holding on to some idea that your joy needs to come from the pain of always giving of yourself to others? I don't know, it's just coming to me. Think about that, Cancers. If you are a Leo, then this opposition is taking place across your 4th and 10th house axis. The 4th house of Scorpio is where we find Mercury opposing Uranus in your 10th house of Taurus. Now, the 4th house is where we find home, family, roots, landed property, and foundations of life, the private life as well. The 10th house is where we find career, public life, visibility, work in the world, reputation, and calling. And so, what is being revealed to you around your family? What new piece of information is coming in around a parent, around family? What new piece of information is coming up about a piece of property or something that has long felt like it has been at the foundation of your life or in your private life, where you are not seen? And what shakeup, shift, change, or new revelation is taking place in your career, in your reputation? What freeing revolution is taking place in the way that you show up in the world, in the way that you are seen publicly, or in the world at large, the way that you are revered? All of these questions. What shift has been taking place? What new awareness is coming in to your perspective around this axis of public versus private, family versus career, home versus work in the world? There's some shift, some new awareness, some new perspective taking place across the public and private sectors of your life. And so for Leos, I just think this one is so great. When I opened the book to this page, and this is what came up. I actually turned to the acknowledgments page of the book, and I read, "1,000 thanks to the people who made this book possible." All right, Leos, here are your reflection and or journaling prompt questions. Who or what in your life deserves acknowledgement or gratitude? Have you been waiting for external praise, acknowledgement, or validation? What is being revealed to you about your past, family, or roots that you may have long looked at with a sense of shame, resentment, or anger, that now you can find freedom through forgiveness and or gratitude for how it may have helped to shape the person you are today? That's for you, Leos. Let me know what you think about that. For our Virgos out there, this is taking place across your 3rd and 9th houses. Your 3rd house of Scorpio is where Mercury is opposing Uranus and Taurus in your 9th house. The 3rd house is a place of communication, of the beginner's mind. It is a place of skill development, siblings, neighbors, your local environment, your everyday habits, and the places that you go on a regular basis, like the grocery store or down the street to the school, something like that. The 9th house is where we find our beliefs, our ideologies, our guiding life principles, our truth with a capital T, mentors, guides, teachers, and long distance travel. And that can be of the mind or physically going abroad. So what new revelations are showing up for you in your your belief structures, your belief systems? What new ideas, perspectives, shifts are taking place within your mind? What's happening within your sense of daily habits? I could see this being something with a sibling or a neighbor that is showing up, or someone in your extended family. You're getting some new information, a new announcement about a sibling that shifts your perspective and that it throws you into having to have a new way of looking, a freeing way of looking at a belief system that you've long held or something that you've long thought to be true. Maybe there's shifts or the unexpected in, in a very mundane sense around a field of study. Maybe you're going to take a trip or you're going to go to decide to enroll in a university program. This could be anything like that. Shakeups, new awareness, new perspectives to do primarily with the mind or with our everyday habits, within our siblings, within our religious, philosophical, educational, or ideological frameworks, anything like that. For our Virgos, I opened the book and read. The working title is Priest Daddy, I say, determined to make a totally clean breast of it. So, Virgos, your questions are these. What shadows of your beliefs need to be aired out and cleared of cobwebs? What freedom can be gained by speaking your truth? What is being revealed to you about the habitual way you have spoken to yourself? Can you name your habits of mind? Maybe your self-talk? Can you name it plainly and honestly? That's for you, Virgos. Let me know how this resonates for you. For Libras, this opposition is taking place across your second and eighth house axis, very similar to our Aries out there. But for Libras, Mercury is in Scorpio in your second house, opposing Uranus and Taurus in your eighth house. Again, this is our axis of resources. Second house is the place where we find possessions, skills, income, material possessions, also energetic resources. Food can be found in the second house as well. Anything that resources you as an individual. The eighth house is where we find shared resources, debts, inheritances, loans. Again, this can be actual money, but it can also be energetic, the ways that you are entangled with and meshed with other people. This is also sometimes where we find our partners' resources, our spouses or romantic partners' resources can be found in the eighth house here. So what is coming up for you? What is being revealed? What new perspective is coming up for you within your personal resources? Is something shifting for your finances? Are you having a new perspective around the way that you resource yourself? Are you having a new perspective that's coming in around ideas of lack? I don't know why that's coming up, but that phrase just came up for me. Are you having some new revelations around maybe scarcity mindset that's coming up for you? And what shakeups or shifts or changes are happening in the eighth house? Maybe something is being shaken up for a partner. Maybe there is something shifting for, maybe you're paying off a debt, you're paying off a loan, or maybe you're taking one on, something like that. Anything to do with the ways that you are enmeshed with, entangled with other people, and how you resource yourself as well. Now, for our Libras, your pull from Priest Daddy was this. The sort of diary that fixes my body and time and space, that records the weather and my moods and what my rose bushes are doing, has always been impossible for me. So this one, I feel like, also gave me a little bit of a conundrum. I had to sit with it for a little bit. But upon reflection, Libra, here are your reflection or journaling prompt questions based on that pull from the book. In what ways have I hampered myself by focusing on balancing ledgers and records rather than a free exchange? Can I find freedom in accepting, receiving, and in reciprocity? What is being revealed to you around the ways you have guarded your resources and held them close to your chest? Maybe that's a little bit more of that scarcity mindset too. You know, Scorpio in the second house for our Libras out there. Yeah, just ponder that. Have you been sitting in a scarcity mindset? Have you been sitting in a ideas around lack for your resources? Yeah. For our Scorpios, this is taking place across your first and seventh house axis. Mercury in Scorpio is in your first, opposing Uranus and Taurus in your seventh. Again, this is similar to our Tauruses out there, just flipped. The first house is the place of the self, body, appearance, character development, psychology, psyche. And the seventh house is where we find our partnerships, one-on-one relationships, business partners, clients, and primary relationships of all kinds in our lives. What's being revealed to you about your own development as an individual? What new perspective are you taking around how you want to be in relationship? What is being revealed to you around what you need in a relationship, what you're willing to give in a relationship, and how you want to connect with others? What shakeups, changes, shifts are taking place for a partner? What new freedoms are coming in for a relationship? Are you experiencing a breakup, a breakthrough with a partner? Are you going to new levels of understanding, new perspectives, and awareness within your primary partnerships and relationships? What shift is taking place for the ways that you relate to those important people in your lives? And then how that helps you to, or is integrated with how you perceive and understand yourself and who you are becoming as an individual. For our Scorpios, this is your pull from the book. The dog is a bone of contention between them because my mother is highly allergic. Do you do y'all think this goes with what we were just talking about with relationships? You know, what you need, what they need, what's changing for them. These are your questions for reflection or your journal prompts, Scorpio. Where have you been putting your own desires above your partner's comfort or needs? Or vice versa? Where has your partner been doing this for you? Can there be freedom in compromise or an entirely new option that neither of you were considering, but that will work better for both of you? What is being revealed to you about your own need to be in control of the situation? Okay, Scorpios, let me know what you think about that. For Sagittarians out there, this is taking place across your 6th and 12th house axis. Mercury in Scorpio is in your 12th, opposing Uranus in Taurus in your 6th. The 12th house is a place of the subconscious, is a place of where we undermine ourselves. It is a place of retreat from the world, isolation, and solitude. The 6th house is a place of self-sacrifice, efforts, the challenges that arrive through which we have to persevere, illnesses, accidents, also small pets fall into this house as well. This is a place essentially of effort, of the everyday toil and work that we do in the world. What is being revealed to you from really deep subconscious places, right? What is coming up around some old patterning? What is being revealed to you around your need for alone time? You know, you Sages are so gregarious and social often. Maybe something is being revealed to you around the fact that you need to take a step back and have some alone time. Really just like sit and think and process on your own without, outside of a social framework. That's just coming up for me. What is being revealed to you around subconscious patterning? I think that's a big one. And what shakeups, shifts, or changes are happening in your workplace? Are you being confronted with a challenge in the workplace? Are you coming up against something, an unexpected, accident or inconvenient illness, something like that you're having to work through? What shifts, changes of perspective, unexpected disruptions are taking place? Maybe you're having a pet. Maybe that's why the small pet came in there, is that you're having a challenge. Maybe a pet is sick or a pet needs to go to the vet, and it kind of throws things for you a little bit. What unexpected shakeup and disruption is taking place in your everyday efforts, in your everyday work that you have been striving towards, that you have been giving of yourself towards, that is allowing for revolution, freedom, and new perspective within your deep psychological framework, within the ways that you have maybe been undermining yourself through subconscious patternings? You're not even aware of how dominant they are, pulling the strings behind the scenes of your life. And so for our Sagittarians out there, your pull is this. Once a month, I dream that I am back inside the mansion with all my high school friends, and a masked man is picking us off one by one. All right, Sagittarius, your reflection or journaling prompt questions are these. Who or what is the masked man within your subconscious? What are some of your deepest fears? Can freedom be found through persevering and facing your fears? What is being revealed to you about aspects of yourself, your past, or your subconscious patterning that you are afraid to look at or let go of? Good luck, Sag. That sounds like some big existential stuff going on for you. Yeah. And you've got eclipses in your fourth house too. Hang in there, Sagittarius. You've got this. If you are a Capricorn, then this opposition between Mercury and Uranus is taking place across your fifth and 11th house axis. Your 11th house is where we find Mercury in Scorpio, and that is opposed to Uranus and Taurus in your fifth. The 11th house is a place of groups, communities, friends, benefactors, allies, professional and social networks, as well as your most deeply held wishes and dreams for the future. The fifth house is where we find children, creativity, self-expression, romance, pleasure, joy, and play. And so, what is being revealed to you about your friends, your communities? Are you receiving a new perspective, a new plot twist within a community that you are a part of with a friend? Are you having a plot twist in a long held dream and wish that you've had for your future? Something is becoming revealed to you. You're seeing it in a new light, and that's shifting things up. You have a new perspective. What unexpected shakeup is taking place for your child, or for your children, if you happen to be a parent, for your creative projects? Are you suddenly becoming aware of something that brings you pleasure and joy that you never would have thought of before? Or suddenly becoming aware that you are no longer experiencing joy from the things that always used to bring you joy before? What shifts, new perspectives, new awareness is taking place along this axis of personal creativity, self-expression, pleasure, and joy, and then the ways that you relate and show up in your communities, amongst your friends, amongst your networks? What shifts are taking place along this axis for you, our Capricorns out there? And so your pull, Capricorns, is this. I know how they are put together because my father used to make them before the pain in his back became so bad that he had to give it up. Okay, Caps, your reflection or journaling prompt questions are these. What creative legacy are you ready to carry on? Can freedom be found through accepting that the pleasure or self-expression you have been engaging in is no longer worth the pain or the consequences? What is being revealed to you about the worth or the knowledge that is available within your communities and networks? Okay, Capricorn, let me know if that lands for you. I'd love to hear. Come back in the comments and let me know. If you are an Aquarius, then this is taking place across your 4th and 10th house axis. Scorpio is your 10th house, where we find Mercury opposing Uranus in your 4th house of Taurus. The 10th house is where we find career, work in the world, reputation, public life, and visibility and calling. The 4th house is where we find home, roots, family, foundation, landed property, and our private life. What is being revealed to you about the work you are doing in the world? What new perspective and new awareness is taking place around how you interact in a public way with the world? What is shifting for you in your career, right? And what unexpected shakeup, what change, what shift is coming in at home, right? Are you deciding to work from home? Are you having an opportunity to work from home? Are you deciding to quit your job and you're going to work for yourself from home? Something like that. Is something shifting or unexpected for a parent that's coming in that's changing your perspective on how you want to engage with the world in a public way? What shifts, new perspectives, new awareness is taking place along this axis of public versus private life, family versus work-life balance, anything to do with parents, property, career, reputation, any of these things? Is something shifting, some new perspective changing along the public and private sectors of your life? And so for our Aquarius, your pull is this. She engages in strategic maneuvers while the rest of us are sleeping. I liked this one. This one was fun. Okay, Aquarius, engaging in strategic maneuvers. These are your journal prompts and reflection questions. Where have you been pulling the strings from behind the scenes? Can freedom be found through letting others in to the private places and the roots or foundations of your life? What is being revealed to you around your career, your public life, or your sense of calling that is asking for you either to step up and go it alone or to allow collaboration? All right, Pisces, last but not least, always, one of these times I should start with Pisces, right? As a Pisces rising, I might appreciate that. Maybe you other Pisces out there can appreciate this too. This opposition between Mercury and Uranus is taking place across your 3rd and 9th axis. Mercury in Scorpio is in your 9th house, opposing Uranus in Taurus in your 3rd. The 9th house is a place of beliefs, ideologies, political ideations, long distance travel, your sense of truth with a capital T. And the 3rd is your local environment, your siblings, your neighbors, your community, how you communicate. I often think of the 3rd also as a place of kind of kitchen magic divination as well, like local environment omens. This axis is very much to do with the mind, with how you think and communicate in the 3rd, and what you believe, and what you have faith in the 9th. So what is being revealed to you about some of your belief systems? Are you having some new awareness around a person who has been a mentor for you or a guide? Are you having some new revelations about a connection to a foreign place that maybe it has informed or helped to shape your ideas and beliefs and the guiding life principles that you hold? What shakeups, shifts, or changes are taking place, maybe unexpectedly or in a shocking way, with a sibling in your local community? In your mind, are you having some kind of breakthrough around the way that you think about things? Are you having a breakthrough around the way that you want to communicate in the world? What shift is taking place along this axis of your mind, your local environment, your community, your local habits, your daily habits, and the things that you believe in, the people to whom you look up, and the ideas that start, the truth with a capital T that guides your life? What is shifting and changing for you with this opposition of Mercury and Uranus across the 3rd and the 9th house axis? And so for Pisces, this is your pull from the book. See Sometimes I teach you something, she says smugly. Okay, Pisces. For you, your journal prompt and reflection questions are these. Where or in what ways have you been righteous or overconfident in your beliefs? Can freedom be found in seeking connection, shared information, or communication with others in your everyday life? What is being revealed to you about a belief, a principle, a mentor that is ready to be revised? Are there new voices or ideologies from which you could benefit and learn? All right, Pisces, let me know what you think and share in the comments. Ask a question. For all of you all, if you stayed with me here till the end of these horoscopes, let me know your rising sign. Let me know if this lands. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this, if you got something out of this, please do subscribe, give me a like, send me a comment. I love to hear from you. It lets me know that you're out there and you're enjoying this content. And if you also are wanting to connect one-on-one, this is what I do. This is what I love. I love astrology so much, and I love connecting with my clients more than anything. So if you would like to have a reading, it's the very end of the year, you want to look at your year ahead, then go to emilytotomer.com and you can book a reading with me. I can't wait to connect with you. Thank you so much for spending this time with me as we've listened to some messages from Mercury and we have heard Hermes speak through the written word. I really appreciate your time and I can't wait to connect with you again next week. Bye.